I transmigrated. The good news was that I became a sect master. The bad news was that being this sect master was even more suffocating than being a corporate slave. Qingyun Sect ranked dead last among the 7 sects of the Eastern Wasteland. People even gave it the nickname, the Retirement Sect. If you counted the lame spirit beast, too, the whole sect still couldn't scrape together 3 golden core cultivators. And, with so little to begin with, the sect was still split into 3 factions: Sword, Pavilion, Pill Hall, and Talisman Peak. The 3 elders were each proud in their own way, and none of them accepted anyone else. To be precise, none of them accepted me. The reason was simple. I became sect master by picking up leftovers. The previous sect master failed his tribulation and was reduced to ashes. Before dying, he was probably muddle-headed with old age and passed the position to a Foundation establishment disciple. In the eyes of the 3 elders, I was just some brat taking up space for nothing. Today was the sect's monthly meeting. Sword Pavilion Elder Shen Jiangxin hadn't looked me in the eye from beginning to end, and Pill Hall Elder Gu Nanshan spoke in that weird mocking tone. After casually saying a few words, the 2 of them got up and left. Talisman Peak Master Gongsun Mo didn't even show up. He sent someone with a message saying, "Peak Master is in seclusion. No idlers allowed." I sat in the main seat of the sect master's hall and thought, this life can't go on. But the real bad news was still yet to come. A system panel popped up before my eyes, and line after line of cold text appeared. System notice. Host's situation has been detected. Main quest issued. Quest content. In 3 months, the demonic branch, Blood Fiend Sect, will invade Qingyun Sect. Enemy, Strength, Demon General Bloody Hand, True Person, Early Nascent Soul Stage, with 300 demonic cultivators under him. Our Strength, 2 Golden Core cultivators, including 1 Patriarch, near the end of his lifespan. 47 Foundation Establishment cultivators, several Qi Refining cultivators. Combat, Evaluation, Certain Death. I stared at those 4 words for a long time. Then, the system popped up another line. System notice. In view of the host's desperate situation, the 4th Calamity summoning system is now activated. System description. The host may open a space-time rift and summon Blue Star players to enter the cultivation world under the identity Descenders. Player traits: immortal, bodies, able to reform after death, absolute obedience to quest guidance, highly sensitive to rewards. First batch available for summoning. 10 people. Summoning countdown. Summon immediately. I looked at the panel and stayed silent for a long time. Then I hurriedly said, "Summon them." 10 beams of white light landed on the plaza outside the hall. When the light faded, it revealed 10 young people in strange outfits. Some wore hoodies, some sneakers, and one was even in pajamas with slippers on his feet. They looked at each other, then started discussing excitedly. Holy shit. A full dive game. The modeling is pretty realistic. Where are the NPCs? I wanna pick up quests. I walked out of the hall. 10 pairs of eyes all turned toward me. A player with the ID Grind Emperor rushed over. First sect master. Any newbie quests? I looked at them and thought for a moment. Then I issued my first quest as sect master. Sect construction. Reclaim spiritual fields. Reward 10 sect contribution points. Before I even finished speaking, all 10 of them had already scattered and sprinted toward the spiritual fields in the back mountain. As they ran, someone shouted, "Hidden quest! Hidden quest!" Click on anything that looks interactive. Watching their backs, I suddenly found this pretty interesting, and their identities within the sect were also automatically assigned to the direct disciple category. 3 days later, during the sect's routine inspection, Pill Hall Elder Gu Nanshan walked in front like always, reporting the spiritual field output as he went. His tone full of impatience. Sect master, the spiritual field output is still the same as before. Barren land simply cannot produce rich harvests. This old man suggests. His footsteps suddenly stopped. I stood behind him and slowly walked up. The sight before me made even me raise an eyebrow. The original 3 mu of barren spiritual fields were now shrouded in spiritual mist. A huge pit had been dug out in the middle of the field, and At the bottom, a spring was bubbling with spiritual energy. The mist was so dense, it looked like milk that wouldn't dissolve. Just taking a breath made it feel like your cultivation was rising. A spiritual vein spring. Qingyun Sect's voice cracked on the spot. The spiritual vein spring that vanished 300 years ago. How could it be here? Shen Jiangxin strode forward, crouched at the edge of the pit, and his hands were shaking. He reached into the spring and stirred it around. When he pulled his fingers out, spiritual energy was leaking from his fingertips. It's real. It's really a spiritual vein spring. Talisman Peak Master Gongsun Mo appeared out of nowhere, even though had claimed to be in seclusion and not meeting guests before. He stared at the spiritual spring, his expression changing again and again. Then, all three of them turned to look at me at the same time. Sect Master, this is... I took the tea handed to me by a disciple and blew at the floating foam. Oh, last month, I was bored, so I casually dug around a little. All three of them froze. Gunanshan opened and closed his mouth a few times, then finally squeezed out one sentence. Casually dug around a little. I ignored him and turned to leave. After taking 3 steps, I heard Shen Jiangxin's voice behind me. Sect Master, please, wait. I stopped and turned around. This old man, who hadn't looked me in the eye even once over the last 3 months, was now cupping his fists and bowing. Shock was written all over his face, along with a tiny bit of unease. He opened his mouth, probably wanting to ask how I knew there was a spiritual spring beneath the field, but in the end, he didn't ask. It's nothing. He straightened up, his voice dry. This old one only wanted to say, Sect Master, that move of yours was incredible. I smiled and turned away. Even from far off, I could still hear the 3 elders arguing in hushed voices behind me. Gunanshan said the spiritual spring should be managed centrally by Pill Hall. Gongsun Mo sneered and asked if he even could manage it, and Shen Jiangxin tried to smooth things over in the middle. The 3 of them argued endlessly, completely forgetting that I was the sect master. But that didn't matter. They remember with the spiritual spring. The sect's spiritual energy concentration tripled within 3 days. I took the chance to release the second batch of quests and opened 3 side profession paths: alchemy, talisman, crafting, and swordsmanship. Then, things started heading in a ridiculous direction. The first accident happened in Pill Hall. A player with the ID, I just want to farm, was assigned to do chores in the alchemy room. This girl was probably an engineering student in real life, because the first thing she did when she got to the alchemy room wasn't learn alchemy, but study the structure of the pill furnace. 3 days later, she came to me holding a pot. Inside, red broth was boiling, with chili peppers and Sichuan peppercorns floating on top. Sect Master, she said, with a completely sincere face. Chi gathering pills are too hard to roll by hand, so I just boiled the ingredients into a soup instead. The effect seems about the same. Want to try some? I looked at that pot of red oil bubbling with unknown liquid and stayed silent for 3 seconds. Then I took a sip. System notice consumed. Chi gathering Malatang. Cultivation 50. Fire resistance 10. Taste stimulation level 999. I set down the bowl and looked at. I just want to farm. Behind her, Pill Hall Elder Gunanshan had already fallen into a silence that lasted half an incense stick. His lips were trembling. His beard was trembling. His whole body was trembling. This is alchemy. His voice sounded like someone was strangling him. Boiling 7 spiritual herbs together with chili peppers and Sichuan peppercorn stats called alchemy. I just want to farm, scratched her head. Elder, I think the essence of alchemy is extracting the active components of spiritual herbs. The thermal efficiency of traditional pill furnaces is too low, so I modified it based on the principle of a pressure cooker. What's a pressure cooker? Gunanshan's volume jumped 8 levels higher. It's something that can raise the boiling point. Stop talking. Gunanshan raised a hand to stop her. Then he turned to me, and in the eyes of an alchemist who had spent 60 years in the field, I saw confusion head never known before. Sect Master, this old one can't see through it. I just want to farm, stabbed him again from the side. Elder, if you think Malatang isn't reliable. I can also try a pill assembly line. Give me 30 pill furnaces. Each one can be responsible for just one step. Efficiency will at least increase 5-fold. Gunan Shan staggered a step and grabbed the wall. He looked at, I just want to farm. Then looked at me, and I just patted his shoulder. You'll get used to it. The second accident happened at Talisman Peak. It started when a player called Math Class Rep discovered a problem while studying talismans. Sect Master. He brought me a blasting talisman to look at. I discovered that the rune structure of talismans is essentially a function graph. The traditional method is too imprecise, so I reconstructed it with higher math formulas. Take a look at the effect. He stuck that talisman, which was covered in calculus formulas, onto a target at the trial grounds in the back mountain. Then we saw the biggest firework we'd ever seen in our lives. A crater 20 jang wide appeared in the middle of the trial grounds. Half the mountain was shaved flat. Talisman Peak Master Gongsun Mo burst out of seclusion, his hair not even tied up, running wildly to the scene with it hanging all over the place. He crouched at the edge of the crater and stuck his fingers into the scorched black soil. When he pulled them out, smoke was rising from his fingertips. This isn't a blasting talisman. His voice was trembling. A blasting talisman doesn't have this kind of power. This rune structure. This old man has never seen anything like it. Math Class Rep explained modestly. Actually, it's pretty simple. I just took a partial derivative and then did a Fourier transform. What's a partial derivative? Gongsun Mo whipped his head around, his eyes already red. Math Class Rep got startled. It's just no need to explain. Gongsun Mo stood up and took a deep breath. Little friend, would you be willing to hang your name at my Talisman Peak? Math Class Rep shook his head. Sect Master's direct disciple. Gongsun Mo's expression became wonderfully complicated. He looked at me, then at the crater, then back at me. In the end, he gritted his teeth and cupped his fists at me. Sect Master, Talisman Peak is willing to open all of our reserves to you, as long as you can let this little friend come to Talisman Peak and give lectures from time to time. I smiled. Easy enough. The third accident happened at Sword Pavilion. To be exact, it wasn't Sword Pavilion that had the problem. It was the sects Lotus Pond. While all the other players were busy grinding quests, a player with the ID Anglers never return empty-handed sat alone by the Lotus Pond fishing. His reason was simple. This game actually lets you fish. Then I have to see what I can catch. He fished for 3 days and 3 nights. At dawn, on the 4th day, the fishing rod suddenly sank. He forcibly dragged out a rusty longsword from the bottom of the pond. The moment the sword emerged from the water, a sword cry shook the entire sect. Shen Jiangxin practically teleported over. He stared fixedly at the sword, his whole body trembling, old tears shining in his eyes. He reached out his hand. His voice choked. Pavilion Master. The Pavilion Master's sword. The Qingyun ancient sword. It was lost 300 years ago and never found again. Little friend, how did you find it? Anglers never return empty-handed. Blinked. Fished it up. What? Fished it up. He turned the sword over a few times and looked at it. It was in that pond. I also caught 3 carp, 2 turtles, and 1 old shoe. This sword stats aren't very good. It doesn't even give a fishing bonus. Elder, does your sect have any magical treasure that boosts fishing skill? Trade this sword for it. The entire place fell silent. Shen Jiangxin's expression looked like someone had stuffed a mouthful of flies into him. When the angler saw that he wasn't moving, he repeated himself. Trade or not? If not, putting it up in the auction house. Trade. Shen Jiangxin practically roared it out, his voice so loud even the pond water trembled. With trembling hands, he brought out 3 top-grade magic swords and said word by word, this old one will trade. So anglers never return empty-handed, traded a heaven-grade ancient sword for a newbie fishing rod with +3 fishing skill and 3 top-grade magic swords he couldn't even use. After the trade was done, he was still muttering to himself, not a loss. Fishing matters most. Shen Jiangxin stood by the pond for a long time, holding the ancient sword. When I went to find him, he was staring blankly at the water. Seeing me come over, he spoke in a hoarse voice. Sect Master, this old one was disrespectful to you before. I waved my hand. He stayed silent for a while, then asked, that fisherman, is he also your direct disciple? I said, you could say that. Shen Jiangxin looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh. Sect Master, where exactly did you find these people? 1 month after the system opened, the number of players expanded to 50. The sect's spiritual energy concentration tripled, and the average cultivation level of the disciples jumped by an entire major realm. Now, whenever the 3 elders saw me, they take the initiative to greet me, though their eyes still carried all sorts of complicated emotions: curiosity, awe, and a certain unease that couldn't quite be described. I had no time to care about their feelings, because the resource allocation meeting for the 7 sects of the Eastern Wasteland was about to begin. This so-called resource allocation meeting was basically a martial tournament to seize first place. Each of the 7 sects sent 10 disciples into the martial arena for a chaotic melee, and rankings were determined by elimination order. The ranking decided how many spiritual veins each sect could mine over the next 3 years. Qingyun Sect had placed last for 17 straight sessions. If we placed last again this year, our final 4 spiritual veins would be taken away. The 7 sects gathered in Tianq City. When Qingyun Sect's team entered the city, the eyes of the other 6 sects all swept over at once. Someone laughed out loud. The retirement sect is here. Qingyun Sect's disciples look a little more spirited this year. So what if they look spirited? Trash with spirit is still just energetic trash. I heard they couldn't even produce 1 late foundation establishment disciple last year. This year, they're probably getting removed directly. I said nothing. The 10 players behind me, on the other hand, were very excited. They looked around everywhere, commenting that this NPC had a good character model and that boss looked like it might drop nice equipment. Qingyun Sect Master Lu Xuanfeng stepped in front of me, wearing a warm smile on his face. Sect Master Lin, personally leading the team this year. I said, He gave a look to the disciple beside him. Young people should get out and see the world too. Don't worry. Well, go easy on you later. His disciples all laughed. I laughed too. I said, okay, I'll have them go easy too. The smile on Lu Xuanfeng's face stiffened for a moment, but he was an old fox, so he quickly recovered that warm expression, patted my shoulder, and said, Sect Master Lin has ambition. Good, good. Then he left with his disciples. A string of laughter was left behind. The martial competition began. Inside the arena, which covered 100 zhang in radius, all 70 disciples from the 7 sects entered at once. The rules were simple. Anyone knocked out of bounds or rendered unable to fight was eliminated, and rankings were based on elimination order. When the disciples of the other 6 sects entered the arena, they all set up standard combat formations: 3 talents formation, 5 elements formation, 7 stars formation, each with its own structure. Only when Qingyun Sect entered the arena, the 10 of them were high-fiving each other. Go, go, go. This round, farming damage. Don't steal my kills. Healer, remember to heal me. My movement is kind of reckless. Who the fuck is the healer? DPS. The fuck you are. You're obviously support. The disciples of the other sects looked at those 10 like they were insane. The match began. The 10 disciples of Qingyun Sect were the first to attack. They targeted Qingyun Sect, planning to wipe out the weakest opponent first. 10 sword lights slashed toward Qingyun Sect's formation at the same time. Then they witnessed the strangest battle of their lives. One player was knocked to the ground, and just as a fatal blow was about to land, his body suddenly dispersed. The next second, he rushed back from the respawn point at the corner of the arena. He cursed as he ran. A sneak attack. This time, I came back with 3 layers of shields. Some players were throwing blasting talismans all over the sky, completely unconcerned with the cost. One Qingyun Sect disciple dodged 3 of them, but failed to dodge the 4th. He was blown, flying, and crashed hard outside the arena. He struggled to his feet, but the expression on his face wasn't anger. It was confusion. Since when were blasting talismans this worthless. Some players were chugging pills, like they were water. One bottle after another went down their throats. They were basically eating pills like candy beans. A disciple from Qingyun Sect nearby stared with wide eyes, and someone quietly asked his companion, "That's a pill, right? Not candy." The craziest scene happened in the third round. Qingyun Sect and Qingyun Sect joined forces. 6 of them cornered a Qingyun Sect player named Rush, first die fastest. That guy was obviously playing a battle mage tank, build high health, high defense, but not enough damage. 6 against 1. He was clearly about to be eliminated. Then he laughed. He shouted, "Focus me, ignore me. Trading out 2 for 1 is profit." Then he detonated the 12 blasting talismans hidden on his body. 12. In matches at the Qi Refining and Foundation establishment level, blasting talismans were major killing weapons. An ordinary disciple would carry at most 2 or 3 as hidden trump cards. This kid brought 12, and every one of them was the math class rep-optimized version, with several times the explosive power of an ordinary blasting talisman. With a thunderous boom, half the martial arena shook. The 6 disciples surrounding him were all blasted away. One of them flew 30 jang and got stuck in a tree outside the arena. The entire arena fell silent. The spectator stands were utterly quiet. Someone forgot to close his mouth. Someone else's teacup fell to the floor. An elder from who knew which sect stood up, then sat down, then stood up again. He looked like had seen a ghost. Lu Xuanfeng's expression was the most interesting of all. The veins on the hand gripping his teacup bulged out, and he didn't even notice the tea spilling over his hand. He stared fixedly at the giant scorched pit in the center of the arena, his lips trembling. 3 seconds later, a white light reformed in the center of the pit. Rush first die fastest reappeared there, full of energy, patted the dust off his body, and said with dissatisfaction, 12 talismans only killed 6. What a loss. I should have brought 20. Complaining as he went, he started walking toward the edge of the arena. Halfway there, he suddenly turned to the direction of Qingyun Sect and flashed a grin. "It's fine. I can revive again later. 10 minute cooldown. Hang in there." The entire arena fell silent again. Then a young disciple from who knew which sect cried out, "He didn't die." That one shout seemed to trigger something, and the whole place exploded in uproar. Who could not die? No one. In the cultivation world, there was body snatching and reincarnation, but those were just legends. What everyone had just seen was a person who'd been blown to nothing by 12 blasting talismans reappearing on the spot 3 seconds later. This was actual resurrection from the dead. The martial competition wasn't finished, because all the disciples of the other 6 sects forfeited. What else were they supposed to do if they didn't? Their opponents were a group of people who couldn't be killed. They couldn't beat them, couldn't outlast them, and couldn't even drag them down together, because the other side could revive. How the hell were they supposed to fight that? The judge announced the result. Qingyun Sect, first place. I stood on the high platform and looked at the dense crowd of heads below. The way they looked at me had completely changed. There was awe, fear, and disbelief. Lu Xuanfeng sat not far away, his face dark green. When I walked down from the platform and past him, my steps paused slightly. I didn't turn my head. "Sect Master Liu," I said. "Sorry about that. Looks like my disciples still went a little too hard." There was no response from behind me. I led the 10 players out of Tianq City. At the city gate, elders Shen Jiangxin, Giyu Nanshan, and Gongsun Mo were standing there waiting for me. Those 3 had each found excuses not to come this morning, probably because they couldn't afford to lose face. Now, all 3 of them had come. Shen Jiangxin looked at me and bowed deeply all the way down. "Sect Master," he said, lifting his head with redrimmed eyes. "This old one has lived for 800 years, and today was the proudest day of my life." I said, "Let's go back to the sect." After we'd gone quite far, the uproar from Tianq City drifted from behind us. Some people were inquiring about Qingyun Sect. Some were arguing about how that resurrection had happened. Some were lowering their voices to say things they probably shouldn't. In the 3rd month, Bloodfiend Sect came 5 days earlier than I'd expected. When the warning formation outside the mountain gate was triggered, I was in the middle of giving the players their daily quests. A blood red warning popped up on the system panel. Warning: the demonic branch, Bloodfiend Sect, has entered Qingyun Sect territory. Enemy strength: Demon General Bloody Hand, true person, early nascent soul stage, with 300 demonic cultivators under him. Our strength: 3 golden core cultivators, 47 foundation establishment cultivators, 50 descenders. Combat evaluation: extremely unfavorable. I closed the panel and walked out of the hall. The entire sect had already entered battle readiness. Shen Jiangxin stood in front of the mountain gate, his back straight as a spear, white hair drifting in the wind. When he saw me come over, he cupped his fists and said, "Sect Master, the demonic path is attacking. In this battle, we can only die." Behind him, the Sword Pavilion disciples all had grave expressions. Some of the hands gripping their sword hilts were shaking. You couldn't blame them. Foundation establishment against nascent soul was a whole major realm apart. Going into that fight meant certain death. On the other side, pill hall disciples were busy hauling pills onto the mountain path. Gu Nanshan stood at the door of the pill room, his face pale, but his hands never stopped moving. Gongsun Mo of Talisman Peak was directing disciples to set up talisman arrays on the mountain path, cursing non-stop. Move, move. Those demonic bastards aren't here for tea. Everyone was ready to die, except for one group of people who seemed completely out of place. The players. System announcement: large-scale raid. Defend Qingyun Sect is now open. Battle rewards: 1 foundation establishment pill, 100 spirit stones, 500 sect contribution points. First clear bonus reward: 1 purple grade piece of equipment. The moment the announcement popped up, the mountain path exploded. All 50 players' eyes lit up at once. That look was hard to describe. Like sharks smelling blood. Like stock traders seeing a limit up board. Like someone who'd been starving for 3 days suddenly seeing a full imperial feast. The public chat instantly filled with spam. Holy shit! Purple gear. Grind. 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 Raid. It's a raid. MT group. Get ready. Healer group. In position. DPS. Check your pill reserves. I brought 40 blasting talismans. Is that enough? Not enough. Bring 80. Trade in all your sect contribution. Let's go, brothers. First come, first served. Then the demonic cultivators arrived. Bloody Hand, true person, rode in on a mass of blood clouds from the end of the mountain path, his pressure bearing down across the entire mountain gate. The aura of a nascent soul cultivator was released without restraint, and even the air grew sticky. Behind him was a black mass of demonic cultivators. 300 of them formed into ranks, killing intent soaring to the heavens. Bloody Hand, true person, looked down at the mountain gate and spoke like thunder. Listen up, Qingyun Sect. Hand over your sect protecting spiritual vein, and this seat can leave you a complete corpse. Before he even finished speaking, a white streak flew over his head. It was a blasting talisman. Then came 10. Then came 100. 80 players launched a charge from both sides of the mountain path at the same time. There was no formation, no structure. The faster ones rushed in front. The slower ones followed behind. And while running, they kept flinging blasting talismans into the sky. The sight was so spectacular, it looked like New Year's fireworks if every firework explosion could also kill 3 to 5 people. The composure on Bloody Hand, true person's face vanished instantly. Had lived for over 800 years and fought countless battles, but he had never seen a fighting style like this. Who the hell threw blasting talismans around like beans? Who the hell dumped all their trump cards at the start of the fight? Who the hell charged in front yelling, "First come, first served," seeking death? He roared, and the blood cloud churned. A giant bloody handprint descended from the sky and smashed toward the players at the front. Boom! 3 players were crushed into a pulp. Then Bloody Hand, true person, heard a strange voice. Beautiful. 3 deaths. Move up and fill the gap. MT died. No panic. No panic. Respawn cooldown is 3 minutes. First come, first serve. You guys came first and died first. Ha ha ha. Then he saw those 3 people heads smashed into a pulp, turn into white light, and dissipate. 3 minutes later, 3 beams of white light reappeared in the resurrection array farther back on the mountain path. The 3 of them came charging back, full of energy, shoving pills into their mouths as they ran. Fuck. Got 1 shot right at the start. This boss hits hard. Your movement sucked. Watch mine. Your movements good. You got flattened like a pancake just now. Okay. Bloody hand. True person's eyes widened. He had killed countless people in his life, but had never seen people come charging back while complaining after being killed. He thought it had to be some kind of secret art, so he probed more carefully. No, they had really come back to life. Their souls were complete. Their blood and ki were complete. Their cultivation was complete, as if the deaths that had just happened never happened at all. What are you people? He roared in fury, the blood cloud churning violently as large swaths of blood mist spread toward the players. No one paid him any attention. The players were discussing tactics. That red mist is AoE. Don't fasake it. Go around the outside. Watch the boss's wind up before his big move. When he raises his hand, there'll be a flash of bloodlight. Roll when you see it. Who wants to pull that mob pack on the right? Let the ranged focus them down. The instant the blood mist descended, all the players moved at once, not to dodge, but to change formation. A few with thick health and high defense rushed into the blood mist to tank it head-on, while the others spread out to both sides, pouring blasting talismans and talismans down on Bloody Hand, True Person, like a rainstorm. The more Bloody Hand, True Person fought, the more uneasy he felt. Head lived 800 years and never seen enemies like this. These people weren't afraid of death. No. Not just unafraid, they simply didn't care. To them, death seemed to be nothing more than one mistake in a game. After reviving, they could just dust themselves off and keep fighting. What broke him the most were the support-type players in the back, slapping talismans on allies and chugging pills. He would finally manage to badly injure one of the enemy's main fighters at the front line. And just as he was about to finish them off, 7 or 8 healing talismans would slap onto that player at the same time, instantly filling their health bar back to full. They recovered faster than he could wound them. Kill the ones in the back first, he roared to the demonic cultivators. A few demonic cultivators charged into the backline just as they were about to strike. Those harmless-looking life skill players all pulled blasting talismans out of their robes at the same time. A thick stack of them. The blasting talismans exploded, and the demonic cultivators were wiped out to the last man. The battle lasted a full shichen. The demonic cultivators went from complete confidence to barely holding on to total collapse. The turning point came when one demonic cultivator swung his blade and cut down a player. The moment that player hit the ground, he turned into white light. Before the white light had even fully dispersed, a new white light was already reforming at the respawn point. 10th time, that player came charging back from the respawn point, yelling as he ran, "I've died 10 times. I should at least get to touch the boss now." Right, the demonic cultivator who'd cut him down had trembling hands. He had killed this person 10 times. 10 times. And this person had come charging back again while yelling that he wanted to touch the boss. The demonic cultivator mentally collapsed. He dropped his blade, turned, and ran. Monsters! These people are monsters! Once the army started collapsing, it fell apart like a mountain sliding down. One demonic cultivator fleeing triggered a chain reaction. The 300 demonic cultivators retreated down the mountain like an ebbing tide. No matter how Bloody Hand, True Person roared, he couldn't stop them. They ran even faster than when they had come, as if they wished they had 4 legs. And Bloody Hand, True Person finally showed an opening in the battle of attrition. A talisman from a player struck his chest, and, at the same time, Shen Jiangxin's long-prepared sword finally struck out. The Qingyun ancient sword pierced through his chi. Bloody Hand, True Person dropped to his knees. 3 shekin later, he was dragged before the sect Master's Hall. His hands were bound by spirit sealing chains, and his knees slammed heavily onto the blue stone floor. He lifted his head and saw me sitting in the sect master's seat. Then he swept his eyes around the hall's elders, but in the end, his gaze still landed on me. Shen, Jiangxin, Giyu, Nanshan, and Gongsun Mo were all standing at my side, each of them half a step farther back than when he had entered. That half step was very subtle. The cultivation world. Who stood farther ahead and who stood farther back had meaning. He stared fixedly at me. You are Qingyun Sect Master, I said. He was silent for a long time. Then he asked one question. Just, what are you? Not a single one of your subordinates fears death. The whole hall went quiet. Every elder in the sect looked at me. Their eyes held curiosity, awe, and the same question. They had wanted to ask it for a long time, but I only curled my lip. They call it courser running. Courser running. No one understood. Bloody Hand True Person didn't understand either, but the more he thought about it, the more horrifying it felt. A group of people who couldn't die. A group who called death courser running. A group of madmen who couldn't be killed, couldn't be broken, and would come back even after dying. He prostrated himself on the ground, forehead pressed to the cold blue stone. I lost. Then the system panel popped up in front of me. System notice. 4th Calamity summoning system upgrade complete. Player cap increased to 500 people. Unlocked functions. Guild system cross-server raids. World boss events. Detected fluctuation from an ancient secret realm. Host is advised to pay attention. In the days that followed, everything in Qingyun Sect expanded at high speed. The number of players broke through 500, according to the system's progress prompts. The sect's spiritual energy concentration had increased 30-fold from the beginning. The players spontaneously formed 3 guilds. Cultivation Ends in Science. Teamwipe Engine. Just want to farm and retire. The 3 guilds each had their own style. They looked down on each other, but still had no choice but to cooperate. News of Bloodfiend Sect's destruction reached Nether Hall, and Nether Hall was enraged. Nether Hall was the true backer behind Bloodfiend Sect, one of the 7 demonic sects with deep foundations. Hall Master Xuanming Patriarch was an old monster in the divine transformation stage, and under him were 3 nascent soul elders. He declared that he would flatten Qingyun Sect within 1 month. At the time, I was giving newbie quests to newly arrived beginner players. After hearing the news, I paused for a moment. Then, I announced it on the global server announcement board. System announcement. Defensive campaign. Demonic counterattack has begun. Enemy. Nether Hall. Vanguard. Green-faced demon general. Mid-nascent soul stage. 1,000 demonic cultivators. Rewards. Double points. Limited appearance. Bane of the demonic path. Rare technique. Fragments. Special reminder. This campaign is a server-wide event. All rewards are limited edition. The public chat exploded. Limited edition skin. Holy shit. Double points. Green-faced demon general. That name alone sounds like it'll drop good loot. Everyone from Teamwipe Engine, assemble. Time to open up the raid. As for the newbie player in front of me, one of the veteran players beside him patted him on the shoulder. Kid, your luck is insane. You just started playing and already caught a big raid. The battle began 3 days later, and this time it ended even faster than last time. The reason was that the players discovered that the suicide bombing strategy used by the guild Teamwipe Engine was incredibly efficient. Volunteers could infiltrate the enemy formation and detonate all at once, taking out dozens of demonic cultivators in one go. The first volunteer was Rush First, Die Fastest. He brought 30 blasting talismans, charged into the densest part of the enemy formation, and detonated them with one thunderous explosion. More than 20 demonic cultivators were blasted into the sky. Then he respawned. Then came the second volunteer. Then the third. The demonic cultivators of Nether Hall discovered a horrifying pattern. Every 3 minutes, a Qingyun Sect disciple would charge into the crowd and self-destruct. 3 minutes later, that same person would reappear on the battlefield full of energy, and this time, they brought even more blasting talismans than before. Green-faced demon general had fought wars his entire life and never seen an enemy like this. Capture them alive for me. He roared at his subordinates. I want to know why they can revive. So the demonic cultivators actually went to capture one. They used immortal binding ropes to seize a lone player and dragged him before green-faced demon general. That player's ID was really a newbie. When he was captured, he had still been studying his own respawn timer. Green-faced demon general stared at him and coldly asked, "Speak, why can you return from death?" Really a newbie blinked. "Because I set my respawn point." "What?" "It means when I die, I return to the respawn point. Every game has that setting. You've never played one." Green-faced demon general felt like his intelligence had been insulted. Furious, he slapped the player to death with one palm. 3 minutes later, really a newbie charged back from the respawn point. This time, he brought 40 blasting talismans and was cursing the whole way back. "Fuck your mother, you blue-faced bastard!" Sneak attacking a newbie, what kind of skill is that? If you've got guts, fight me head on. The demonic cultivators looked at the person they'd killed 3 minutes ago, now lively again, and their minds snapped. The first one threw down his weapon, then the second, then the 100th. Once the defeat began, it collapsed like a mountain. Green-faced demon general wanted to enforce discipline, but his own routed troops swept him along as they retreated down the mountain path. Netherhall's vanguard army was wiped out completely. When the news reached the main hall of Netherhall, Patriarch Xuanming stayed silent for a full incense stick. "Summon the other 2 demonic sects. This seat will personally move out." The allied army of the 3 sects gathered more than 20,000 demonic cultivators. This was the largest joint demonic operation in the history of the Eastern Wasteland. Netherhall, Bloodmoon Sect, and Soul Refining Valley all pressed blood handprints onto the Alliance Pact. The news spread throughout the Eastern Wasteland, and Qingyun Sect once again entered battle readiness. Shen Jiangxin stood before the mountain gate, with 3,000 Qingyun disciples and 800 players behind him. His tone was heavy. "Sect Master, this battle is more than 10 times larger than the previous Bloodfiend Sect attack." I said, "Good. Saves us from having to fight them one by one." System announcement. Defensive campaign. Annihilation of the demonic path has officially begun. Duration, 72 hours. Kill ranking has been opened. The team that gets the first boss kill will receive the limited title. Bane of the demonic path. Limited drops. Fragments of demonic techniques. Collect a full set to synthesize the complete technique. Special reminder. All rewards are limited edition. The moment the announcement came out, the 800 participating players went wild. All the other players who weren't at the main battlefield rushed over from every direction. The miners stopped mining. The alchemists stopped refining. And even the fishermen threw down their rods and ran over. The 3 sect masters stood at the foot of the mountain and looked up at Qingyun Sect's mountain gate. This little sect they had thought they could easily crush was now shrouded in a faint layer of white light. The battle erupted at dawn. The demonic army of 20,000 pressed forward, their momentum shaking heaven and earth. After several hours of fierce fighting, the demonic cultivators broke through the outermost line of defense and charged into the inner positions. And then they realized things had gone completely out of control. Then the people from Teamwipe Engine made their move. They had developed a new tactic, targeted self-destruct assaults. The core strategy was to use movement skills to rush into the enemy backline, then detonate every blasting talisman on their bodies. They specialized in blowing up command nodes and supply lines. A nascent soul demon general had just raised his battle flag and ordered a formation shift when he saw 3 figures rushing toward him from 3 different directions. He wanted to dodge, but there were people on all 3 sides. Triple self-destruction. The demon general was blown away on the spot, and the battle flag crashed down. 72 hours later, more than half of the allied army of the 3 demonic sects had been killed. The 3 sect masters were captured. From that point on, the demonic forces of the Eastern Wasteland existed in name only. On the day, the news of the destruction of the alliance army of the 3 demonic sects spread across the Eastern Wasteland. Outside the hall, the 3 elders stood with lowered hands. Shen Jiangxin cupped his fists and bowed, his tone more respectful than ever before. "Sect Master, the other 6 sects of the Eastern Wasteland have sent congratulatory letters, and the The 3 great sacred lands have dispatched envoys requesting an audience with you. I stood inside the hall, watching the scene. The system panel popped up with one message: System Notice. 4th, Calamity continue leading them. Next, Redelta Battlefield. I withdrew my gaze, and the corners of my mouth rose slightly. All right. Let them see what a real, all-out offensive looks like.